This week in nerdy news, this is LTNN. A new set of photos for the upcoming Disney Plus exclusive movie, Muppets Haunted Mansion, was released last week by Entertainment Weekly. One photo features Miss Piggy dressed up as Kermit, and Kermit dressed up as Miss Piggy, so I guess that toxic relationship is still a thing. Marvel's new animated MCU series, What If?, premiered last Wednesday with an episode featuring one slight change to the original Captain America movie's story that rippled out into an entirely different outcome, where Peggy Carter became the super soldier instead of Steve Rogers. A second promotional poster has been released showcasing a zombie apocalypse Avengers situation. Oh boy, forget shawarma. We're eating brains tonight. And lastly, the first official trailer for Y: The Last Man was released last week, showing the day that all men die except for one, Yorick Brown. This story follows an extremely popular comic series where the world's women find themselves struggling to rebuild and find the answers around the sudden, immediate death of all men on Earth. I'm going to call it right now, though. It's probably not going to give you the warm fuzzies that you think it would. That was This Week in Nerdy News. I'm Radio Matt, and this is LTNN.
Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Laughlin, and this is Reviews of the Nerds. Today, I'm reviewing the Disney Plus series Loki. Loki is the latest series in the MCU string of successful Disney Plus shows, following The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision respectively. The series picks up right where we last saw Loki in Avengers Endgame, after he steals the Tesseract back again and disappears into space and time from 2012 New York. The first episode wonderfully sets the tone for the rest of the 6-episode series, and I have to admit, it has become my favorite thing the MCU has ever produced. Throughout the miniseries, we see Loki being forced to confront the atrocities he's committed, but more importantly, he's forced to confront himself. We see this first by him being interrogated in episode 1 by Mobius, played brilliantly by Owen Wilson, a top agent for the Time Variance Authority, a police-type task force tasked with upholding the sacred timeline created by the mysterious timekeepers. He then continues to self-reflect when he meets Sylvie, played by the amazing Sophia DiMartino in episode 2, a female variant of himself. What follows is a series of timey-wimey twists, turns, and unfortunate events. The heart and soul of Loki is the many conversations and emotional moments the characters have with each other. It was heartwarming to see Loki develop a friendship and camaraderie with Mobius, and breathtaking to see him and Sylvie fall into a delicately beautiful love for one another for the first time in their lonely lives. But most of all, we get to see Loki grow and develop, and by the end, become someone whom we can call a hero. While the time-traveling, various Lokis, and ultimate introduction to the multiverse at the conclusion of this series is the fascinating plot, it's all the moments that Loki has with everyone, from Hunter B-15 to Sylvie to Jonathan Majors' eccentric He Who Remains, that really drew me in and kept me coming back for more. And while the series ends on a bleak cliffhanger, we have Season 2 to look forward to hopefully wrap up the loose threads we were left with. Director Kate Herron and head writer Michael Waldron, along with extensive input from Tom Hiddleston, who served as an executive producer for the series, have together created something smart, funny, and beautifully emotional. I give this series Loki a 9.5 out of 10 stars. Be sure to check out the behind-the-scenes documentary episode on Marvel's Assembled on Disney Plus too. You really feel the love the creative team put into the show. I'm Brittany Laughlin, and remember, be sure to tell your loved ones you love them. For all time, always.
Not surprised. Have you found yourself confused and unable to make sense of much recently? Are you unable to keep up with the latest restrictions and safe practices and guidelines? I feel like that's been our life more or less for the last year or so. Just when I think I know exactly what's going on, something changes. As soon as I find myself confident and assured of where I stand, new information arises and I find myself caught between truths. This past week, I was struggling with accepting what is right for myself and my family and admitting those things to people in our lives. Afraid of criticism or backlash, I tried figuring out ways around conversations. I began overthinking scenarios and situations that hadn't even happened yet. My heart began to race at just the thought of what if, and then, like a rushing wave over unexpected toes in the sand, I remembered God's promise, a promise of peace and assurance. Ecclesiastes 1:9 reminds us, "What once was will be again. There is nothing new under the sun." While the entirety of this passage is anything but comforting, this verse alone brings about peace. Even through all the uncertainty the world is throwing our way, and even when nothing seems to make any amount of sense, we can trust that God is not surprised. He's not thrown off course, and His plan is not foiled because of the world. If you find yourself feeling weary and overwhelmed, just as I often do, rest in the promise that God is still in control and, more importantly, is more powerful than anything causing you fear. Don't waver between false truths, but instead stand firm in the truth of a God who is not surprised.
Hey everyone, I'm Hector Mirai, and this is Faith and Fandom 180 on LTN Radio. So Saturday was Free Comic Book Day, and I had my booth set up outside a local comic book shop, along with about 8 other vendors outside. Saturday also was a swelteringly hot, moist armpit of a day of North Carolina heat. And so I was outside from roughly 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. in the sweltering stankonia that was this past Saturday. And I had a great time. Got open cool doors, got to share and do great things with Faith and Fandom. But I was hot. Like the candles on my table melted to the table. But there were 4 comic book artists that are friends of mine that they had tables inside the comic shop in the lovely, lovely, luxurious air conditioning. And I have to say, I was a little jealous. Like, there was times I would catch myself kind of grumbling like, man, I should be in there. But one of the things I realized is that too often I've tried to toot my own horn or convince myself I deserve things I don't necessarily deserve. And scripture teaches us in Luke 14:10, but when you are invited, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, friend, move up to a better place. Then you will be honored in the presence of all your fellow guests. Verse 11 says, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. I, in my own heart and in my mind, was trying to exalt myself to a place of more recognition and better air conditioning. And while that may be an isolated incident, I've seen that so often we get into the place where we want recognition and we want credit and we want acclaim so badly that we start to put ourselves in the way of God because we want the recognition we think we deserve. And we end up in a place where God actually has to bring us down a notch. Let's let God put us in the good seats. Remember to catch Faith and Fandom 180 every Wednesday morning on the Back Row Morning Show only on LTN Radio. And if you'd like to learn more about Faith and Fandom, head over to faithandfandom.org where you can learn about our Comic-Con ministry, podcasts, memes, apparel, and book series. You can even read new chapters before they make it to the next book. I'm Hector Mirai, and thank you for spending the last 180 seconds with me.
This week in Nerd History, Saturday morning TV.
Nerd History.
I'm sure most of us Gen Xers and Millennials have a soft spot in our heart for what Saturday mornings used to mean to us as kids. A big bowl of Lucky Charms and Saturday morning cartoons and kids programs. Batman, X-Men, Eek the Cat, Bobby's World, Animaniacs, Power Rangers, Digimon, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Garfield and Friends, the list goes on. And it all started on August 19th, 1950, when the American Broadcasting Company, ABC, first aired two Saturday morning television shows for children, Animal Clinic, which featured live animals, and the variety show Acrobat Ranch, which had a circus theme. The latter show, hosted by Jack Stillwell, Uncle Jim, featured two young acrobats, Tumbling Tim and Flying Flo, and children competing in games and stunts. Once other channels started following suit, Saturday morning slots began to be filled with older cartoons originally made for movie theaters, such as Looney Tunes and Mighty Mouse, and reruns of shows aired other times, like The Flintstones, The Jetsons, and Johnny Quest. In the mid-1960s, networks began producing their own programming specifically for that television block, and it kicked off a superhero boom. Superman, Aquaman, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Space Ghost, Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, Underdog, and more were created in this time. By the mid-90s, however, Saturday mornings started to decline, mainly due to, well, the government. The FCC introduced the EI mandate in 1990, but made it bolder in 1996. This required all broadcast networks to air educational and informational children's programs for at least 3 hours a week. And instead of trying to find 3 new hours to put this educational programming in each week, of course, this would instead be focused on the Saturday morning block. Concurrent with EI, the Federal Trade Commission outlawed the advertising of both premium rate telephone numbers and tie-in merchandise during children's hours. This cut off large revenue sources for children's programs on network television. While some Saturday morning shows continued into the 2010s, Saturday morning programming for children was soon phased out by the networks in favor of Saturday morning news programming. And with the rise of streaming, making the world of Saturday morning cartoons available 24/7 on demand, the point of a dedicated block no longer exists. Currently, the idea is one of nostalgia, with MeTV launching a Saturday morning cartoons block this past January on its channels featuring classic Popeye, Pink Panther, Tom and Jerry, and Looney Tunes shows. I'm Radio Matt. See you next time for more
Nerd History.